GameFi and the Metaverse is going to be something that's going to be, overly used and displayed, and, it's kind of worked to death, and the majority of people are going to use it as a buzzword. But the truth is, this is actually the hot topic of 2022 in our industry, as you guys know. Before we kind of go on, I just kind of want to just state this out there, because there's a lot of confusion as to actually what NFTs are. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of buzzwords out there that people just kind of like overly use and they're a little confused about, especially in our industry. A lot of people think these JPEGs are essentially these static images that you see everywhere that people have. And yeah, of course, those can be NFTs. NFTs, basically signify intellectual property and ownership and exactly who was created it and when was it created and timestamped on the blockchain. But if you can actually think, and you probably can attest to this, having given your background, remember when we used to have .media files for every type of file there was? NFTs are essentially .media files on the blockchain. Whatever type of .media file you can create, whether it's audio, visual, or a combination of the two, even some AR, VR components, and the .media file essentially can be created as an NFT. And if you think about it from that perspective, it'll give you a different understanding for the true power of the technology, which is actually intellectual property and ownership of digital media on the blockchain, which gives it that actual transparency from creation to all the sale processes, and it gives you timestamp the data of all the record history of the transactions. But go ahead, sir.
Oh, no problem, thanks. So my name is Ourabah. I've been working for 20 years now as supporting the infrastructure fueling the financial services and all the technology surrounding that. And then, of course, when the crypto and blockchain world arrived, quite naturally, we also provided this infrastructure supporting that. I'm also a long-time miner since 2014, or 13, Bitcoin miner. And of course, very recently, getting bored about all this business, I moved into this new project, which is an MMORPG, play-to-earn game. That's the first crypto game for non-crypto people. And it's touching a lot of the point that you guys mentioned around gamification, enabling entry, no barrier to entry, and we're changing that with not having to own the NFT, and all these topics. So we can talk about all that at length.
Thank you so much. How do you see, Michael, gamification and these play-to-earn features playing a role in our society moving forward?
So I think it's clear, as you rightfully mentioned, it's going to change the lives of millions of people who are basically living under this level of poverty, in my opinion, and it's going to be a huge enabler. But to enable that, we need to resolve a lot of the problems that have been seen in the last few booming play-to-earn games, like Axie specifically. If you look at it, you need to own these expensive NFTs, and to be fair, it's a big barrier to entry. So they created that. These guilds and these systems where people would invest and provide them to people, but that's not giving freedom, because they depend on somebody that's going to give them the right to play and then earn. So I think the way to resolve that is remove this necessity of owning an expensive NFT to start playing. I think the NFT is still there, but you need to find a way around it, like the rent-to-earn mechanism, where people who invest in NFTs can put it on the marketplace when you launch the game, without even having to know how to buy an NFT, how to interact with the blockchain, how to create an ERC20 wallet. And if you can resolve these barriers and basically provide that marketplace where you can click, select an NFT, and just start playing and earning, and share the revenue with the owner of the NFT at 20%, 80%, for example, then you remove everything and you enable huge masses to engage into it. And as you rightfully mentioned, the only way for us around this room to be interested in play to earn is not around earning, because it's just a side feature, it's not enough. But it has to be, how can we make it interesting for a wider audience to then interact with people that are playing in the more poor countries, and make sure that the in-game economics are sufficiently fueled by people and companies and B2B companies that want to promote themselves in the metaverse, so that you can continue paying the people. And that's a big problem that Axie is seeing as well. So I think the in-game economics and the sustainability of the in-game economics are key for the success on the long term of these play-to-earn games. I think for me that's the most important part.
So let's talk about the metaverse, right? Metaverse is going to be, obviously regurgitated over and over again. It kind of reminds me of 2017 with blockchain, the word blockchain and how it was like everyone, was talking about blockchain. Let's start off with something very simple. like what is the actual, like what do you see the metaverse in? Like let's say, how do you see the metaverse playing out in terms of like, you know, where do you see us going with this? Michael, what do you think?
That's a long conversation. We talk about that for maybe 10 hours, but let's try to make it a bit different. So I think it's really blending the real life with the cyber world that we've been living in for the last 20 years, and that's been taking over our lives. 20 years ago, we were barely doing a few hours a day, not even sometimes for some people, of emails and just web browsing. And now we basically have our smartphones in our pocket, like you're doing right now, 24/7 in any instances, in any environment. And it's basically surrounding us all the time. And I think one of the big challenges is going to be able to engage with all these, you know, gateways into the cyber world that we have, because 1, 2, 3, 7, 10, 20, in 5 years, how many metaverses are we going to have? Hundreds of them. So we need to find a way to, you know, bridge them together and create maybe some kind of global APIs or interconnection, meta to meta bridges, so that whatever asset you have in one can be transposed in another one, and find a way to, you know, collaboratively not only monetize, but leverage what you have in all these metaverse, because you might have to be in that metaverse for a Zoom meet, for, you know, like a virtual meeting for work, and then move with friends and having afterwards drinks that are in different places, and you want to use what you have. And how can you then get real world items that have probably sometimes, that can probably have also an NFT embedded inside the metaverse, but you own both the real life and the NFT in the metaverse, so that, as I said, everything's blending together. I think that's, for me, is the future of the metaverse.